Here's the lie you've been told your entire life: more money equals more happiness. If you're making $50,000 and you're stressed, making $100,000 will fix it. If you're making $100,000 and you're still stressed, making $200,000 will fix it. If you're making $200,000, well, obviously you need $500,000. There's always another level, always another milestone, always another salary that will finally be enough to make you happy. Except here's what the actual data shows: money does buy happiness. Absolutely. Unquestionably. But only up to about $100,000 a year. After that, the correlation between money and happiness essentially disappears. You can make $100,000 or you can make $1 million. And on average, you'll be about equally happy, which means every dollar you earn above $100,000, every extra hour you work, every promotion you chase, every side hustle you grind, you're not buying happiness. You're buying stuff. And stuff, as it turns out, doesn't make you happy. But nobody wants to hear this because we've built our entire lives around the assumption that more is always better. Let me show you the research because this isn't just my cynical opinion. In 2010, a psychologist named Daniel Kahneman, who won a Nobel Prize for his work on behavioral economics, published a study analyzing data from 450,000 Americans. He was trying to answer a simple question: does money buy happiness? And what he found was fascinating. Below about $75,000 a year. Adjusted for inflation, that's closer to $100,000 now. Money absolutely buys happiness. Every extra dollar you earn makes a measurable difference in your emotional well being and life satisfaction. Because when you're making $30,000 or $50,000, you're stressed about real things. Can I pay rent? Can I fix my car if it breaks? Can I afford to go to the doctor? What happens if I lose my job? That stress is constant, it's grinding, and it measurably reduces your happiness. But once you hit about $100,000 in household income, something changes. The stress of basic survival disappears. You can pay your bills, you have an emergency fund, you're not one unexpected expense away from catastrophe, and your happiness levels plateau. Going from $100,000 to $150,000 doesn't make you happier. Going from $150,000 to $300,000 doesn't make you happier. You just have more stuff and bigger payments. Now, before you say that's easy to say when you're making $100,000, let me be clear. I'm not saying money doesn't matter below that threshold. It absolutely does. If you're making $40,000 a year and struggling, you should absolutely try to earn more. The difference between $40,000 and $80,000 is life changing. It's the difference between constant financial stress and breathing room. It's the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and having options. But here's what most people miss: the median household income in the United States is $83,730. That means half of American households are already at or near the happiness threshold. And yet, Americans collectively owe $104,755 in average total debt. They're making $748 car payments for 69 months. They owe $1.23 trillion on credit cards. They're stressed, anxious, and miserable despite making enough money to be happy because they're not spending their $83,000 on security and peace. They're spending it on stuff, on performances, on keeping up, on chasing the illusion that the next upgrade will finally make them feel satisfied. So, why do we keep chasing more money even after we've hit the threshold? Why are people making $150,000 just as stressed and unhappy as people making $60,000? Because of something called hedonic adaptation, which is your brain's tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness regardless of what happens to you. When you get a raise from $60,000 to $100,000, you're ecstatic for about 3 months. You feel like you've made it. You feel secure. You feel like all your problems are solved. But then something insidious happens. Your spending rises to match your income. You move to a nicer apartment. You upgrade your car. You eat at better restaurants. You buy nicer clothes. You start shopping at Whole Foods instead of Safeway. And within 6 months, you're back to living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher dollar amount. you're making $100,000 and somehow spending $100,000 and you're just as stressed as you were at $60,000. Except now you can't go back. You can't downgrade. You've locked yourself into a lifestyle that requires $100,000 to maintain. So you start chasing $150,000 and the cycle continues. This is why people making $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 often report being just as stressed about money as people making $75,000. Because no matter how much they earn, they spend slightly more than they earn. Their house costs more, their cars cost more, their kids go to expensive private schools, they vacation in expensive places. They're surrounded by other wealthy people, so their reference point shifts. They're no longer comparing themselves to the median American making $83,730. They're comparing themselves to their neighbors making $600,000. And suddenly $300,000 feels inadequate, feels like they're falling behind, feels like they need more. And they're trapped on a treadmill that spins faster the more money they make, but never actually gets them anywhere. They have more stuff, but they're not happier. They just have more expensive problems and more sophisticated ways to stay broke. Here's what actually matters. Once you hit the $100,000 threshold, and this is where most people completely miss the point, it's not about earning more, it's about spending less. If you make $100,000 and spend $100,000, you're going to be stressed and unhappy. You'll have no savings, no security, no options. You'll be living the same paycheck to paycheck existence as someone making $50,000 just with nicer stuff. But if you make $100,000 and spend $70,000, you're wealthy. Not because you have a lot, because you need very little. You have $30,000 a year to save, to invest, to build actual security and freedom. And that security, that freedom, that's what creates lasting happiness. Not the stuff, not the bigger house or the nicer car, the feeling that you're okay, that you're safe, that you have options, that you could lose your job and not panic, that you could take a year off if you wanted to, that you're building toward a future where you don't have to work at all. That's what money buys after the $100,000 threshold. Not more stuff, more freedom. Let me paint you two pictures of people making exactly the same income, $100,000 a year, but living completely different lives. Person A lives in an expensive city, rents a nice apartment for $2,500 a month, drives a car with a $650 payment, eats out regularly, takes nice vacations, wears nice clothes, and basically lives the lifestyle that someone making $100,000 is supposed to live according to social media and their peer group. At the end of the month, they've spent about $8,500. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They have maybe $10,000 in savings. They're stressed about money constantly. They can't afford to quit their job. They're trapped. Now, person B makes the same $100,000, but they live in a cheaper area or have roommates paying $1,200 a month for housing. They drive a paid off used car. They cook at home. They take cheaper vacations. They wear normal clothes. They spend about $4,500 a month. They save and invest $4,000 a month. After 3 years, they have $144,000 invested plus growth. After 10 years, they have over $600,000. They can retire early. They can quit their job tomorrow if they want. They're free. Same income, completely different lives. One is trapped, one is free, and the only difference is spending. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to admit. Past $100,000, your income matters less than your spending. You can make $200,000 and be broke. You can make $80,000 and be wealthy. It's not about the earning. It's about the gap between earning and spending. It's about whether you're using your income to buy stuff or to buy freedom. And most people, even smart people, even people who understand this intellectually, choose stuff because stuff is visible. Stuff signals status. Stuff makes you feel like you're winning, but it's a trap because the more stuff you have, the more you need to maintain it, to upgrade it, to keep up with it. And you end up on a treadmill where you're working more to earn more, to spend more, to need more. and you're never happy because happiness doesn't come from stuff. It comes from security, autonomy, and freedom. And you can't have any of those if you're spending everything you earn. Now, let me tell you what actually happens when you hit $100,000 in income and decide not to inflate your lifestyle. When you decide that $100,000 is enough and you're going to save and invest the difference instead of spending it, the first thing that happens is social pressure. Your family asks why you're still living in that apartment when you can afford something nicer. Your friends wonder why you're still driving that old car. Your coworkers judge you for packing lunch while they go out. Your partner might question why you're being so cheap when you're finally making good money. And you have to withstand that pressure. You have to be okay being the weird one, the one who doesn't look successful, even though you're actually building wealth. Because if you cave, if you let lifestyle inflation take over, you'll end up like everyone else, making good money, spending all of it, and wondering why you're not happy. But if you hold the line, if you keep living like you make $70,000, even though you make $100,000, something magical happens over time. Your investments compound, your net worth grows, and after 5 years, 10 years, you realize you have options that your higher earning peers don't have. You can take a sabbatical, you can switch careers, you can work part time, you can quit a toxic job without panic, you can handle emergencies without stress. You've bought yourself freedom, not through earning more, but through needing less. And that freedom, that security, that's what creates lasting happiness, not the dopamine hit of buying something new, the deep, sustainable satisfaction of knowing you're going to be okay no matter what happens. Here's the identity shift, and this is the hardest part. You have to stop measuring your worth by your income and start measuring it by your freedom. Stop asking, how much do I make? And start asking, how much do I need? Stop comparing yourself to people making more and start comparing yourself to who you were last year. Are you freer? Are you more secure? Do you have more options? Because if you're making $100,000 and spending $100,000, the answer is no. You're not freer than someone making $50,000 and spending $40,000. You just have nicer stuff and bigger payments. But if you're making $100,000 and spending $70,000, you're building something real. You're building escape velocity from the system that wants you trapped. You're buying your life back one saved dollar at a time. The final thing I need you to understand is that $100,000 is not a magic number. Depending on where you live, your family situation, your obligations, your number might be $80,000 or $120,000. The point isn't the specific dollar amount. The point is that there's a threshold, and once you cross it, earning more doesn't make you happier unless you're saving and investing the difference. And most people never figure this out. They chase raises and promotions and side hustles their entire lives, always thinking the next level will finally be enough. And they get to 65 and realize they spent 40 years earning more and spending more, and they're not any happier than they were at 25. They just have more stuff and more regrets. Don't be those people. Figure out your enough number. Get there. Then stop inflating your lifestyle and start inflating your savings. That's the only path to actual lasting happiness. Not more money, more freedom. Stop trying to look rich. Start getting free.